Still I'm too geek for the guy. Yeah, whoa, I've been in the house, but I'm coming outside tonight.
What made you come here to support Puff?
I'm supporting Puff because he's innocent, and I'm wholeheartedly believing his innocence, and I know he's innocent. So
you say you know he's innocent?
1,000%.
He used the embarrassing and sensitive recordings he made of the freak-offs as collateral against the victims. And the indictment alleges that he maintained control over the victims in several ways.
Everyone knew he was the devil. He's been the devil for 30 years. He's been covered and protected by not only Clive Davis, but Lucian Grange. He was selected to be the demon that he is, to keep the culture in line so the industry could continue to keep it for all of its precious jewels. We have too many lost. The list of lost is ridiculous, and everyone knows Diddy was selected for this job. He's the Judas.
Mr. Combs feels A, he's innocent, which is why he's not going to plead guilty. B, he's going to be truthful about this case because he wants to portray that to the people who have loved him his whole life. And I think he also feels an obligation to people in general. Maybe it's black people, maybe it's white people, maybe it's anybody who's ever felt aggrieved and targeted by the government. He feels an obligation to those people to say, you know what, maybe I can break the model. Maybe I can show the world that a black man can win, in federal court. And I think he probably is the only person I know of who might be able to actually accomplish that.
Welcome back to Live Now from Fox. Our next story takes us out to the Big Apple as Sean Diddy Combs will be back in court today for day 2 of his trafficking and racketeering trial. Jury selection is set to resume with 19 jurors from the first day's pool moving on to the next stage. Fox 5 New York's Briella Tomasetti joins us live this morning outside the courthouse in Lower Manhattan with the very latest details. A lot of eyes on this case, Briella. Good morning.
Gina, good morning to you, and I can tell you this, it's expected to be another busy day at court. As a reminder, yesterday, potential jurors were given a brief explanation of the charges. The judge also told them that the defendant is presumed innocent until proven guilty.
Major developments tonight involving the case against Sean Diddy Combs, what he decided in court today, and what this now means, the move coming just 4 days before his trial is set to begin. Here's Aaron Katursky.
Tonight, Sean Combs makes it official. He's rejecting the government's offer to plead guilty and spare himself the possibility of a prolonged term in prison. When asked if he turned down the offer, Combs answered, "Yes, I do, Your Honor," as he stood in a baggy beige jail uniform. Terms were not disclosed, but prosecutors did say a plea could result in a shorter sentence for Combs than if he...
I represent Rock Nation, a lot of people in Rock I'm very close with. That's sort of family to me. And, I don't think they're sort of...
See eye to eye on things.
See eye to eye with me.
For over 3 decades, Sean Diddy Combs built an empire. From the streets of Harlem to global stages, he became one of the most recognizable and influential figures in music and culture. The man was more than a producer or performer. He was a brand, a businessman, and to some, a symbol of black excellence. But today, that empire is on the verge of collapse. What started as rumors has now become a federal criminal case, not civil suits, not gossip. This is racketeering, human trafficking, weapons, drugs, alleged manipulation and coercion going back decades. What changed? People started talking, witnesses, survivors, even former employees. Cassie Ventura, Diddy's longtime girlfriend and former artist, was the first to break the silence publicly in a major way. Her lawsuit painted a picture that was not just troubling, it was horrifying. She alleged years of abuse, control, and trafficking under the guise of love and mentorship. And when she filed, other stories began to follow. Some cases were dismissed, some settled quietly. But the volume, the sheer number of accusations, could no longer be ignored. And then came the federal raids. In March 2025, federal agents from multiple agencies executed synchronized raids on Diddy's homes in Los Angeles and New York. They weren't just looking for cash or one piece of evidence. They were after a bigger picture. a possible criminal enterprise hiding in plain sight. Agents found hard drives, flash drives, boxes of documents, sealed envelopes, a laptop. One drive was labelled Charity Gala 2013. Another, Guest List, Comp Access. Federal officials haven't confirmed what they found inside, but their message was clear. They believed this went far beyond celebrity scandal. They believed it was organised crime. And that's when the pressure really started. Diddy was arrested shortly after. At first, he showed up with a legal team and a public face of confidence. But prosecutors argued he couldn't be trusted, that he'd used his influence to intimidate witnesses, that he had assets and properties across the world, that he was a flight risk. The judge agreed. Bail was denied. Inside Brooklyn's Metropolitan Detention Center, Diddy was no longer a mogul. He was an inmate. That's where he crossed paths with someone prosecutors now call Witness X. We don't know Witness X's full name. What we do know is that he was serving time on unrelated drug charges and working in the laundry unit of the jail. That gave him proximity to other inmates, including Diddy. Witness X says he spoke with Diddy. He says he overheard things, and he wrote it all down in a notebook. Prosecutors say this wasn't just idle jail talk. They say Witness X provided actionable intelligence. For example, he claims Diddy instructed someone to clean the jersey storage before agents came back. That tip led to another search warrant. And yes, there was a storage facility. And yes, it had boxes, a laptop, flash drives, more evidence. Diddy's team immediately moved to discredit the inmate. Jailhouse snitch, they said, desperate for a deal. But the timeline raised questions. Witness X made his proffer, the formal offer to cooperate, just 48 hours after prosecutors sent his lawyers a plea deal in an unrelated case. Coincidence or incentive? Prosecutors say his claims are backed up by timestamps, surveillance footage, and even jailhouse phone logs. Phone calls made from Diddy to a longtime business associate, right around the time of those notes. Were they just about real estate? Or were they about hiding assets? In court, Diddy's defense argues that everything was consensual, that what people see as criminal...
We found out that Diddy was using other inmates' phone cards. Now, that probably happens all the time. You understand? And he got to be probably the smartest, dumbest person that I know, because he got to know that those phone calls are being taped. So whatever his lawyers and them come up with, the prosecution's going to come up with something else. So the judge is going to want to know, well, what did they do, you know, when they found out he was in violations of some of this stuff that he was doing. But it's going to be something that I think it may shock the world.
Well, Bill and Sade, accepting a plea agreement would mean that Sean Combs would have to admit to trafficking and force. And today he made it very clear that was not going to happen. Diddy maintained all along these encounters involved consenting adults and plans to take his chances.
Do you think it's possible he might take his life?
It takes a certain individual to prepare himself to do a lot of years in jail. From the lifestyle that he had, I'm not saying that he can't. I just don't see him able to do time behind bars. Maybe if he be in a camp type situation, that's a possibility. But based on the lifestyle and what he's done and what he's accomplished, if he had to go behind those bars for a lot of years, I think that he may commit.
Behavior was really just adult parties, intense relationships, and misunderstandings blown out of proportion. But prosecutors are painting a different story, one of calculated grooming, intimidation, and long-term control. They claim Diddy used drugs and threats to manipulate people, that he maintained a network to protect himself while exploiting others. Then there's the question of the videos. Some insiders say there are tapes, hundreds of hours of private footage, some filmed without consent. Diddy's team denies this. They say the tapes don't exist, but rumors persist. Some allege that celebrities were involved. Some go even further, comparing the case to Jeffrey Epstein. So far, prosecutors have not charged him with crimes involving minors, but the accusations alone have stirred public outrage. Even more damaging, he rejected a plea deal. In federal court, Diddy stood up in a beige jail uniform and said, "Yes, I do, Your Honor," when asked if he was turning down the offer. That decision changed everything. To accept a plea would have meant admitting to trafficking, to forced acts. He refused. His lawyers say he wants to fight, that he believes he can win, that he feels an obligation, not just to himself, but to others who've been targeted by the system. Whether that's true or just strategy remains to be seen. But now the trial begins. Jury selection has started. Witness lists are being reviewed, and the public is paying attention. The music industry is distancing itself. Endorsements pulled, deals cancelled. Some former friends have gone silent, others have begun to speak. Sponsors are nervous, investors are watching, boardrooms are reconsidering their ties. And behind all of it, there's a question no one wants to answer directly. How much did the industry know? Because for years, Diddy was protected, not just by lawyers and contracts, but by the very machine that profited from his fame. Record executives, media outlets, influential friends, they knew, they saw, and they said nothing. Now, they might have no choice. In the end, this isn't just about one man's guilt or innocence. It's about a culture that rewarded silence, about a system that protected power at the expense of truth. And whether or not a jury convicts him, the empire has already cracked. This is the trial of Sean Combs, and it might be the most important case hip-hop has ever faced. Some still support him. A few voices have come forward saying they believe in his innocence, that the allegations don't match the man they knew. They cite years of community giving, mentoring young artists, and fighting for representation in business. But support is thinning. Quiet meetings are being held behind closed doors. Major entertainment firms are reviewing contracts, licensing, and liabilities. In the courtroom, Diddy's demeanor is calm, collected, cold even. He doesn't show much emotion, no tears, no outrage, just water sips, legal pads, whispers with his lawyers. Some say that's strategy, others say it's the real man finally revealed. And there's one haunting question echoing through social media and whispered behind federal walls. Could Diddy take his own life? People ask because of the pressure, the fall from such a great height. The Epstein comparisons have fueled speculation. Some believe he could never face a prison sentence, not for years, not after the lifestyle he lived. Others say he's far too proud to admit defeat that way, that even in isolation his ego would keep him alive. But the truth is, no one really knows. What we do know is this: the walls are closing in. A cooperating inmate, dozens of accusers, digital trails, surveillance footage, a past that's being dragged into the light, frame by frame, word by word. This isn't a scandal anymore, it's a case study. In power, in silence, in the limits of celebrity protection. What happens next could redefine how the entertainment industry handles allegations, especially against its most powerful. Diddy once said, "Can't stop, won't stop." But now he's stopped, and what follows may change everything. Because at this point, it's not just about what he's done, it's about what others allowed, and whether this trial will finally bring the truth to the surface. One way or another, the verdict will echo far beyond the courtroom. This is the fall of Diddy.